This is practice problem 5.3. My favorite hockey team is the Boston Bruins, and the chart below shows data from the 2011-2012 regular season for players who were with the team for the entire season. So in this chart we've got all the players and the number of shots they took and the percentage of shots that actually scored a goal. So for part A, I want to create a stem plot for number of shots on goal of the players. So the first thing I want to do is separate the number of shots for each player into the stem and the leaf part of the number. So I have done that here on this copy of the chart. So this just has the shots, and I've separated the last digit from the rest of the digits by an orange line here. Alright, once I do that, I want to look at the range of shots. So what's the smallest number of shots and what's the largest number of shots that I see here? Well, there are a few players who have 0 shots on goal, like Tim Thomas, who's a goalie, so it makes sense that he has 0 shots. And then the highest number I see is 242 here for Tyler Seguin. So our range of shots is from 0 to 242. So when I make my stem, I want to include everything from 0 up to 24 on the left-hand side. So this is what my stem will look like. I've got everything from 0 all the way up to 24, and I've included all of the numbers in between. Then to fill in this chart, we just want to walk through and place a leaf for each player. So we want to do that in increasing order. I'll start at the bottom here and look for everybody who has 0 shots on goal, and we'll fill them in first. So here's Marty Turco has 0 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players have 0 shots on goal, so I will put 5 zeros here on the right hand side of 0. The next highest number is 1, and I see 2 players have 1 shot on goal, so I'll put 2 ones here. The next highest number is 2. I've got 1 player who's got 2 shots on goal, so I'll put a 2 here. 1 player has 3 shots on goal, so that's a 3. And 1 player has 6 shots on goal, so I have a 6 here. So that takes care of all of my players who had a 0 as the stem part of their shots number. And I'm just crossing things off in my chart so I can keep track and make sure I don't miss anybody here. So next, let's look for players who have a 1 for their stem. I've got 1 here, and I only see the 1, so Zach Hamill has 13 goals. So for him, I'm going to put a 3 to the right of the 1. Does anybody have a 2 for their stem? No, it doesn't look like it. No 2s. Also no 3s or 4s. My next highest number is 57 here. So I'll put 7 to the right of the 5. There's no other players with a 5, so the next highest is 63. So for that, I'll put a 3 to the right of the 6. Then there's a 74, so I'll put a 4 to the right of the 7 over here. Also, my next number is 86, so I'll put a 6 to the right of the 8. And then there's a 90 over here, so I'll put a 0 to the right of the 9. What about for 10? I've got couple of those here. Andrew Ference has 107, and so does Benoit Pouliot. So I'll put 2 7s to the right of the 10. What about 11? I've got a few of those. What's the smallest one? Looks like the smallest is Rich Peverly, so I'll put a 2 here. And then Sean Thornton gives me a 4 also there. What about 12? I see one player with 12 as a stem, so I'll put a 2 here. I don't see anybody with 13 as a stem. For 14, I've got a couple of those. The smallest one is David Krejci, so I'll put a 5. Oops. A 5 to the right of 14 for him. And then a 9 for Milan Lucic. What about 15? I don't see any 15s, but I do see a couple of 16s, so I've got 167 for Brad Marchand here, and then 168. What about 17s? I also have a couple of those over here, so 171 gives me a 1 here, 174 gives me a 4. Now I've crossed out everybody in this column. I don't see any 18s. I do see a 19 here, so I'll get a 1 to the right of the 19. No 20s. I've just got a couple players left. Zdeno Chara has 22-4, so I'll get a 4 there. And finally, I've got Tyler Seguin with 24-2, so I'll put a 2 here, and that fills in my stem plot. For part B, we've got another chart showing the heights and weights of the players, and we want to create a dot plot for the heights of the players. So again, I'm going to first find the range. So what's the smallest height I have? Well, that is 69 here, and the largest height is 81. So I want to have as my base of my dot plot a number line that includes everything from 69 to 81. And I'm going to decide to go from 65 to 85 here. So I've drawn this number line. And now I just need to fill in a dot for each player. And in this case, I'm just going to walk down the list. So first, I've got Tyler Seguin with 73, and that's about here. 74 is 1 over. 72 would be here. 76 is over here. 69 here. 81 is way over here. 72, we've already had 172, so we've got another 72 there. And then another 72 on top of that. Another 74. Another, and this is my first 75 right there. Another 72. I've got a lot of players with height 72. A 71 was in here. Another 73. Another 72. A 74. Another 72. Another 75. Another 74. Another 76. Another 71. You can see these are all grouped pretty closely. A couple of 69s. Then a couple of 71s. A couple of 72s. Going off my chart here. A 73. 2 more 75s. And a 71. So that fills in my dot plot. And here it is a little bit nicer. I've copied it for part C, where I want to compare this histogram that shows the weights of the players divided into intervals of 10 pounds. I'm going to compare this with my dot plot from part B and see how are they alike or different, and does this make sense. Well, they look pretty alike. They have a similar shape. I've got a main cluster of players here and the main cluster of players here. And then I've got one outlier in the weights and one outlier in the heights. And that outlier is Zdeno Chara, who is 81 inches tall and weighs 255 pounds. So they have a similar shape. So does that make sense that they would have a similar shape? Well, we would expect that the height of a player would be related to the weight of the player. We expect taller players to weigh more, like Zdeno Chara here, and then shorter players to weigh less. So it makes sense that they have the same kind of shape.